What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Hands-On channel. I thought we would do a little change of scenery here and set up here by my rabbitry where I have all my rabbits. It's one of those things that makes me feel a little bit better about the situation that we're in, but I'm sure that many of you guys that follow the channel, you've noticed that I haven't put a video out in quite a while, especially for me. Normally I put out a couple of videos a week, but man, I just needed to take a break from all this stuff because I'll be honest with you, when you stare into the abyss too long, it's like you become the abyss after a while. You start to, see that darkness everywhere you look, and it's very depressing. And so today I've been working on this video in my mind for a week now, and I wasn't able to write it down and pull the trigger, but today I took some time and I sat down and I wrote down just some things off the top of my head that are, at least to me, showing me the signs that we are in the end times of the United States of America. We are at the end of the Republic. And this is a video that I never wanted to make. I mean, I love this country. I want my child, and if one day maybe she brings some grandchildren into my life, I want them to be able to, have the same experiences and opportunities and availabilities to opportunities that I had growing up and stuff. And every day that goes by, things are getting worse and worse and worse. So it's easy for me to come on here and just say things are bad and leave it at that, and you guys have to sort it out and suss it out for yourself, what's going on, what's actually wrong. But today I wrote down a whole list of things that to me spell the end of the Republic. That maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but at some point in the future, the entire system is going to reach the breaking point and we're going to collapse and crumble. And I think that day is closer than any of us would like to admit. And depending on what happens with a lot of these different wars, that may accelerate things or it may actually decelerate things. I don't know. But this is my list of all the different things that I see individually as individual systems that are intentionally being destroyed, mostly by globalists with the agenda of implementing the New World Order here in the United States. So let's get into this. Number one thing that I see a problem with here in the United States, and no one on the right or left is doing anything to stop it, it's the economy. The economy's in free fall. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I mean, gold prices have shot up through the roof. They claim that oil prices are being artificially deflated right now. But once that artificial deflation comes off, or once we can't afford to, import cheap oil around the world anymore, like say this Iranian war with Israel goes full scale and the United States gets more and more involved, well, guess what? They're going to cut us off from oil. Once that happens, Katie bar the door. I mean, you want to talk about super hyperinflation. Imagine $5 a gallon gas right now on top of everything else that you're having to do at the grocery store and stuff like this. All of the sacrifices we're already having to make. Imagine adding $5 or $7 or $10 a gallon gas on top of that. You think I'm kidding? You think that that's not in the realm of possibilities? I would say it is. And in fact, right now, I don't know what kind of magic they're pulling, but they're doing something to keep the oil prices down right now. I don't know if Biden is, begging Saudi Arabia to keep the prices down. I don't know exactly, but the U.S. dollar is also in decline. I mean, ever since Biden came in, and honestly, let's be honest about it. The spending that Trump implemented under the new COVID policies, now I get it, that wasn't his fault that COVID came up at the end of his term there and all this. And it was honestly, in my opinion, it was done intentionally by design, released intentionally by design as a weapon against a political opponent named Donald J. Trump. The Chinese did not want Trump to continue to remain in power. And again, this is just my opinion. You can let me know what your opinion is down in the comments. But my opinion is this was an act of war perpetrated by China towards the United States of America, and the United States responded in the worst possible way we could have. We sacrificed our liberty. We said lockdown. We said no church. We said all these different things that are anti-American, and it fell right into the hands of the Chinese communists. I mean, they're the ones with the Chinese social credit score. And look who just after COVID happened, started trying to do this medical credit score type deal where if you didn't have the jabby jab, then, oh, you weren't going to be able to go play in the reindeer games anymore. Remember all that crap? Oh, you weren't going to be able to remain in the military at your position in whatever government office you worked at, right? They were going to fire your ass if you didn't get that thing, that experimental thing that I'm not even allowed to talk about because the censorship is still so over the top that if I say certain things, they'll just ban my video. Or even worse than banning a video is not showing it to my audience of nearly 30,000 people. I mean, it happens repeatedly on my videos. It doesn't matter if it doesn't matter what the content is about. YouTube, especially if it's controversial, will decide that, oh, we're not going to show your audience, the people that have subscribed to your channel, we're not going to show them the video that you just put out. It's unbelievably disheartening. When you put a video out and you only get, I don't know, 300, 400, 500 views when you've got an audience of 30,000 potentially that YouTube refuses to send your content to, when you have to go in and type the entire channel name out before it pops up in the search bar on YouTube, that's kind of a big deal. That's how you know your channel is being heavily shadow banned, and it's an effective campaign. It makes it to where many days I'm like, well, I can't talk about this, I can't talk about that, I can't talk about this, and then at the end of the day, that's one of the reasons I haven't made a lot of videos lately, is it's like all the things that I want to talk about, I'm so worried that I'm going to get banned or shadow banned even heavier that it's just not worth my time to do it for the 200 or 300 people that are going to watch the video in the end anyway. And it's extremely frustrating. If I thought that the playing field was level and my views were this low, I would probably go ahead and give up and start something else or take the channel in a different direction. But I don't think that's what's happening. I believe we are being heavily shadow banned. But back into the problems here in the United States, besides over-the-top censorship that violates the First Amendment. Economy, $34 trillion in debt. Now again, Biden didn't do all of that. Trump did some of that with his, outrageous spending during COVID policies. But a vast majority of it has come in since Biden came in. And what was the deal I saw just like a couple of weeks ago? Something about every 90 days the United States is going another $1 trillion into debt or something like that. It might have been worse than every 90 days. It might have been every 60 days or every 30 days. But would you guys be surprised at the way these people are spending money like it's going out of style? Meanwhile, you got the BRICS nations out there talking about, hey, we're getting ready to back our currency up with gold, a real physical hard asset. What do you think about that, United States? And for right now, for whatever reason, I think just because of trust and the long-term relationship many people have had with the U.S. dollar around the world, I think right now the dollar is relatively stable. But I think there are a lot of people out there that are watching the spending, the irresponsible spending taking place in the United States by the United States government, and the way they're just printing and printing and printing and borrowing and printing and borrowing and more and more and more trillions. And eventually that's going to hit the wall, and people are going to be like, hey, wait a minute, there's this other currency over here called BRICS, and it's actually backed up by something real like gold. So let's get on that. So I'm really worried that we're basically setting the stage for a BRICS takeover, and the dollar will, not with a bang, but with a whimper. It will just disappear one day. And then suddenly the globalists will come in. That's what Klaus Schwab and all those guys at the UN and all that, and the WEF, all those people are just sitting there waiting to come in with their new digital currency, their one world currency, right? So they can control you even more. So moving on. What else is wrong here in the United States of America? Well, I just got through going through this garbage yesterday, and it's another part of the reason that I haven't been able to make content. I've been so stressed out about trying to get my freaking federal taxes done because I do run a small business, albeit it's a much smaller business than it was before Biden came into office. It's getting smaller every year, and my only hope is that someone that's pro-energy and pro-Trump, a Trump-type candidate comes in and wins in 2024 and turns the entire energy policy of the United States around. That's the only way that I can possibly save my oil field business, because I work in the oil field. It may be indirectly, but they're definitely affecting me. So anyway, as I was thinking about this, yesterday was April 15th, and I had to actually file for an extension on my taxes because we couldn't get all our crap together. Because if you remember, I had the mega water leak and all that. Well, that was right when I was supposed to be doing my taxes and stuff. Of course, that's the way it always goes, right? And so I had to file for a damn extension from the federal government so they don't come and, you know, bring their gun-toting IRS 90,000 or whatever it was, 78,000 IRS agents to come and round my ass up and lock me up. Yeah, taxes, man. Taxes. We're, you know, I saw a meme a couple of days ago, and it was something like, you know, the founding fathers started a revolution over something like 3% tax or something. Could you imagine if they saw all the stuff that's going on that the American people put up with right now? And I would argue you could make a pretty sound argument that, if nothing else, based on numbers alone, the quantity of people per representative in Congress, I would argue that we have a situation of taxation without representation. So the stage has been set for the exact same sort of need for a new Declaration of Independence against the current federal government, who is out of control. They're too big to fail, you might say, or they might say. But yeah, let's look at taxes for a second. And this is not an all-inclusive list here. I'm sure I'm leaving some out. So let me know down in the comments, what taxes did I leave out that bug the hell out of you every single time you have to pay them? So you got income tax, right? You earn money, you're going to have to pay the government, you know what, 30% or whatever, or more. Small businesses, it's more like 38 to 42, 43% of your income. I mean, we're getting dangerously close to 50%. So damn near half your money that you make, you have to give to the government just to be able to run a small business. It's bullshit, man. And I know that tax rates aren't that high on normal income wage earners that, you know, go to work and have their employer take care of all their W-2 stuff and all that. But I'm an independent contractor, so my taxes are like 38 or 39%, I believe, was what they were last time. I expect they'll be a lot higher this year because of all of Biden's spending. I mean, you can't just do this. You can't just throw money into the wind and burn it, light it on fire like they've been doing since Biden took office. But you've got income tax, of course, property tax. So you never really own anything. You know, even this land here, even though I've paid off my loan, I don't owe the bank anything. I own this property right here. I'm pretty proud to say I own all of my properties. We don't owe money to any mortgage company anywhere, and that's excellent. But you know what we do owe money to? The damn state taxes. They constantly are raising them up every single year. They're looking around, and you know, I'll give them some leeway on this. All these people around me out here have been building these new neighborhoods with these little like McMansions or whatever. So we're talking houses that are like $500,000 and up. It wasn't that way when I bought my house. It was mostly houses like my house, like, you know, with the crazy house prices that stand right now. My house on my market is probably worth maybe $275,000 if it was all fixed up and ready to sell, right? Everything was cleaned up. None of my animal stuff was out here, and it was all cleaned up. I could probably get $275,000, maybe even $300,000 if I put really high-end stuff inside of it. But anyway, that being said, everyone out here is building houses that are $500,000 and up. So what that does is it makes all of your property taxes go, you know, anytime it's anywhere near you that they build one of these new neighborhoods, and then say they put in 25 $500,000 houses, well, guess what happens? Your property taxes go up because of assessed value of your neighbor's freaking property, not yours. Your house may be deteriorating. It may not be any nicer than it was, you know, 25 years ago when you first bought the damn thing. Federal government doesn't give, or I'm sorry, state government doesn't give a crap. What they give a crap about is raising your taxes every single year. In the name of, you know, oh, well, we got to pay for schools, right? We got to pay for this communist, Marxist indoctrination system that we have allowed to take place. We got to pay for that with our property taxes, whether you have kids or not. It's complete bullshit. It's another way of them screwing you 6 ways to Sunday. Oh, you don't think that's enough? Sales tax, go buy something. Even groceries in most states are taxed. I mean, that's unbelievable. You've got this super inflation since Biden came in. They claim it's only like 8 or 9%. We all know it's more like 25 to 40% inflation at very minimum. Many of the objects and things that I buy, the foods that I buy, the parts and tools that I have to buy to run my business and to run my life, many of them are 3 times more money than they were just a couple of 2 or 3 years ago. You explain that to me. It's not because of COVID. It's not because of anything other than Democrat policies running us straight down the crapper, putting more and more regulations on these companies and taxing the shit out of everybody. Well, guess what? Guess what, California? When you raise your minimum wage up and you force employers to pay entry-level workers $20 an hour, they fire those entry-level workers and they bring in robots. I mean, every single thing we're doing is wrong. Every metric that you would use to judge the success of a nation, the United States is failing. And then on top of all that, you got sales tax and crap, anything you buy. Now they're wanting to do a deal where, I don't know if you guys do this or not, but I sell stuff on Facebook sometimes. And, well, I used to sell stuff on Facebook sometimes, let's put it that way. It's so annoying to deal with these Facebook people, for one thing. They're a lot different than Craigslist people. At least with Craigslist, you had to go back and forth on email or give them your phone number or whatever, and you actually talk to a person. But with this thing, it's like, you know, instant messaging and is this available? Anyway, I'm going off on a mini rant because I can't stand the way Facebook Marketplace operates. But they're wanting to do a deal now where basically anything you sell used, if you don't report it, they're going to come and say, oh, well, you're breaking the law here. You didn't report this $30 income where you sold this old bowling ball and a bowling ball bag here on Facebook, as if you're supposed to remember all that stupid shit. Well, guess what? The federal government remembers. They've got it on a database. And they're using their, how many was it? Was it 87,000, 90,000 people that they were going to bring in? I don't remember. Chloe, hush. Come here. Come here. Come here, Chloe. Good girl. Good girl. Come here. We're making a video. You can't be barking. Come here. Sit down. Sit. Sit. All right, let's go ahead and lay down. Let's get back into it. Lay down. So yeah, income tax, property tax, sales tax, gas tax. I'm probably leaving something out. Death tax is another one. Inheritance tax. I mean, they tax you even after you're freaking dead. We've got a serious taxation problem here in the United States of America, and I don't know what it's going to take. I'm not going to be the one guy that's going to be like, okay, well, I'm just not going to pay my taxes anymore. It's going to take a tax revolt, a revolution where, you know, millions and millions and millions, maybe hundreds of millions of people have to refuse to pay their taxes. And I'm not calling for that, federal government, so don't come try to round me up over it. I'm just saying that's what it's going to take. It's going to take the American people cutting the federal government off of the thing they're most addicted to more than anything else. Power and control. And the way you do that is you take their money away from them. And you refuse them the ability to be able to print their own money. You don't allow that crap anymore. And I don't know how we do all that. That stuff's beyond me, I'll be honest with you. But let's move on, or this video is going to take forever. Next up here on the list, when I drive around, I see this in every single state that I go to. And, you know, I'm not saying I'm some, you know, world traveler, United States traveler. I've been to every state. I'm not like Johnny Cash. I haven't been everywhere. There's places I haven't been. But out of the places I've been, the infrastructure is in atrocious condition. Bridges collapsing. I mean, we just saw the one. Now, that was done by, I guess, accident or maybe cyber attack or who the hell knows. But that bridge that collapsed out in Boston, you know, like, I don't know, several decades ago. It's been a while now. But I remember somewhere, it was either Arkansas or Oklahoma or something. There's a river down through there, a pretty big river. What river is that? I can't recall the name of it, but there's a great big river, and there was a huge bridge, and a barge hit the bridge and collapsed the bridge. I mean, again, you would think that these people would either put some sort of metal guards up, some deflector shields or something around these pillars to keep them from being hit by a big barge or something, and maybe that wouldn't do anything. Maybe you know, I'm ignorant in this topic, so maybe I just don't know. But when I drive around the country and I look at our roads and our bridges and our schools and our power grid and all of the other infrastructure that we count on here in the United States, it's crumbling. It's crumbling. It's not being repaired. Even though we're being taxed, and that's why I did it in this order, we're being taxed at a higher rate than ever, but yet our infrastructure is in worse shape than ever. worse shape than ever. Oh, they're hiring a whole bunch of illegals, though, to stand around and lean on a shovel and put orange cones all over the fucking place. But nothing's getting fixed. And even when they do, I don't know if you guys have this same sort of deal in your state, but let's say you live in a county like I do, and you call in and you say, hey man, there's this huge pothole down here. It's going to blow a tire out. It's so bad. They'll send out their crew of, illegal aliens, I assume, and they'll come out there and stand and lean on their shovel and put orange cones up and all the stuff they do. And then 2 or 3 days later, you'll go back over there and you'll be like, all right, they fixed that pothole. But instead of a pothole, they actually turn it into a mini speed bump. So, I mean, if you care about your vehicle, you don't want to be hitting that crap. It's just like, it's jarring, man. It like, when you hit it, you can feel the whole car move, and shakes your dash and shit if you've got an older Chevy like I do. And I'm just like, oh, whoa, baby. Oh, man, I didn't mean to hurt you. Well, that's everywhere I go now. Every single place I go. There are no good roads around here anymore. None. They've all deteriorated to the point where, I guess you can just keep putting speed bumps up, and as they call them, pothole repairs. And I've been like baffled by that for years and years. Every time I see one, I'm like, I look at my wife and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Are you telling me they can't figure out how to make it smooth like it was before? Why do they have to build it up so high where it's like a damn speed bump? And you might argue, oh, well, that's so that it packs down as people drive over it. It never happens. They stay speed bumps forever. There's got to be a way. I mean, it's 2024. Surely there's a way to patch a road where it doesn't feel like a speed bump afterwards, but they don't know how to do it apparently. And maybe it's because we're paying illegals to come in there and do it that don't give two shits about the repair or the job that they're doing. They're just caring about that paycheck that they're getting from the U.S. taxpayers, right? Or your state taxpayer money, right? It's complete bullshit. So yeah, roads, bridges, schools, the power grid, we've been hearing about for years and years and years and decades even, that the power grid is vulnerable, that it's weak, it can't handle even the current loads. I mean, they have brownouts every single year in California because they can't handle the load. Now, a lot of that may be because of their own, anti-climate, whatever, I don't know, anti-people, anti-human climate change propaganda bullshit that they do in California. I'm sure a lot of it is because of that, but it's not happening like that down in Texas, and Texas can't even keep up with the power grid, or at least the last couple of summers, they've had brownouts as well, and they've had their officials from like their energy companies calling people and saying, oh, well, hey, can you, bump your air conditioner up a little bit, maybe not use as much power this year. Meanwhile, out of the other side of their face, the Democrats are saying we got to go to all electric cars by 2030. And they never explain how the power grid is going to be able to keep up with it when it can't even keep up with the current demands that are on it now. And no one is doing anything to harden the power grid against like EMP attacks or anything. I mean, we've talked about it extensively here on my channel because I think it's one of the greatest threats we face. If any nation, whether that be Russia, China, Iran, maybe North Korea, maybe they decide to drop an EMP on us. I'm telling you guys, that would be a death blow to the United States of America. Everyone you know and love most likely will be dead, including yourself, because we're so addicted to the electricity coming into our walls and coming into our houses, and we don't know how to live without it, man. You don't believe me? Go turn the damn power off for 4 or 5 days and see what happens. See what you feel like after 4 or 5 days, not being able to look at your phone, not being able to get on your computer or watch your TV or flip a switch on the wall and have lights come on, or go take a shower or any of that sort of stuff, man. I mean, this is critical. If we had responsible people in government, they would be doing things to harden up the power grid, to make it stronger, make it more robust, build more nuclear power plants, whatever you have to do to make it happen. But no, we're not into that. Instead, we're anti-human. See, that's the agenda of the globalist. It's anti-human agenda. It's depopulation. It's decolonization, as they call it. Decapitalization. They hate capitalism, but they love Marxism. They love the communist business model. So that's probably what they're pushing towards. I mean, if you just listen to the words that they say, they want a communist style world government to control everything. To me, that sounds like a nightmare. That sounds like something that I will fight tooth and nail to my deathbed to resist. And I hope you will too. Next up, we kind of mentioned it there briefly in infrastructure. And when I said it in infrastructure, when I was talking about schools, I was talking about like the actual buildings themselves. You know, when I drive past these schools, a lot of them, I mean, they're in pretty bad disrepair. I've been into some places. I went into a school here recently that I hadn't been into a school in a long time. And it reminded me of my grade school, or I'm sorry, my middle school. So my middle school was set up like 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. And this place was such a dump and felt like such a prison. And I walked into a school here recently and it immediately brought me back to that. I was like, oh my God, no wonder I hated school so much. It's just like a prison. And I've been inside. I've never been locked up in a prison, thank God, but I've been inside prisons. I used to do beverage equipment years ago, and they would send us out to these prisons. Sometimes they were brand new prisons. Many times they were not brand new prisons. They were occupied prisons, and we had to go in there in the cafeteria amongst the general population. And you talk about scary. You talk about when you got a bag full of tools and you know everyone in there is looking at those tools like, hey, that's an automatic instant shank right there. I could stab that guy over there, my arch enemy, 100 times before he even knew it, you know. And the security guards, I remember that time, the worst time that really scared me. Me and my partner went in there to restore, or I don't remember what the deal was. There was something going on. We did a flavor change or something on one of these prison beverage machines. And it was right at lunchtime we showed up. And sure enough, the guard brought us in there, and then I turned around, the guard was gone. And we're just surrounded by all these inmates and stuff, and I'm just like, what the hell is this? What the hell is this? Where's the guard? And he's like way over there. You know, I mean, I could have been shanked like 50 freaking times with one of the tools that was ready to use in my tool bag. And this guy just walked away. But anyway, that was kind of a off topic there a little bit, but I tend to do that when I'm reflecting and remembering things like this. But yeah, when I went to middle school especially, and even grade school to a degree, it was very much a prison type environment. Is that the environment that's best for learning and teaching kids and stuff like this? I don't think so. All right, so yeah, the education system is screwed. I was reading some stuff a while back. I think it was Chicago, if I remember. But basically they were saying that a lot of these kids that were graduating from high school could not read at a 4th or 5th grade level. I mean, that is pathetic. That is pathetic. We're falling behind in every metric that you use to judge, you know, the education system. We're falling behind China. We're falling behind many of the Asian nations. I think they said we're ranked 11th, but I don't believe we're ranked 11th. I mean, I just don't believe it. I think it's way worse than that. The public education system has been a complete and utter failure. And many people, including myself, I didn't know this until like, I don't know, a decade ago. I just thought the Department of Education was always a thing, but it wasn't. It was invented by Jimmy Carter back in the late 70s, I believe. You know, so probably looking at somewhere around 1976 to 1980, somewhere in that time frame, Jimmy Carter came up with this Department of Education. And ever since then, we've been just going boo, straight down, straight down. And that's not the way we need to be going. We need to be going straight up and teaching our kids to be, you know, independent-minded people that can look at a complex issue and discern and use good judgment to be able to figure this stuff out on their own, not have to go click on Google for every single answer. But see, they don't want people that are free thinkers. They want perfect little robots. And I'm convinced of that. That's why they've done everything in their power to implement Marxist policies, to, you know, to basically control the kids. You know, I remember one of the things that really bothered me as a kid was that, you know, I got into several different small fights. I mean, they were young kid fights, so they weren't really that big a deal, but, you know, little schoolyard, playground fights and stuff. And every single time, whether I was in the right or whether I was in the wrong, if I was defending myself, it didn't matter to the teacher. The teacher or the principal or whoever interrupted or intervened the fight would immediately punish both of us. Didn't matter who was right or wrong. Didn't matter who threw the first punch. None of that stuff. And many times I'd be like, look, man, I'm defending myself. I'm not going to allow someone to come over and punch me in the face or push me down in the dirt or whatever. I'm going to defend myself. And I was firm about that. Even when I was a small kid, I knew better. Part of that's because my parents told me. They were like, no, you don't put up with that crap. You don't put up with that. Don't let people bully you. Don't let people pick on you. Don't let, you know, someone treat you like that. You fight back. And so part of that is a big part of that I owe to my parents teaching me that, but I already knew something in my heart, in my gut knew, like in 4th or 5th grade, when I first heard a teacher say that to me about, no, fighting is never the answer. I'm like, no, you're wrong. You're wrong, teacher. So once that happened, I kind of, teachers lost a lot of credibility in my mind because I knew they all pretty much believed that bull crap. It's malarkey. You got to have self-defense. That's one of the main components of the United States of America and individual liberty. If you don't have self-defense, you don't have a country. You don't have liberty. So anyway, they're doing their damnedest to get rid of self-defense. That's kind of a little mini rant on education, but that's where I first noticed it. So next up here on the list is cost of living. It's exploded, man. I mean, it's exploded, and wages haven't gone up to match that, obviously. Taxes have gone up, everything else has gone up, but the amount of money that you get to keep has gone down because of inflation. Some people say that inflation is it's sort of like a tax, and it really is if you think about it. You know, they basically inflate everything, and so it's a tax across the board that no one notices, and no one gets to really blame anyone for a raise or an increase in taxes, right? So anyway, there's not a lot you can really do about it except for, you know, pinch your pennies and try to cut coupons and do whatever you can to save money right now, because inflation is affecting us all. Again, I said earlier, my opinion is it's somewhere around 25 to 45% or something. And on some items, it's 3 or 4 times more money. But you've got food, fuel, energy prices, just to name a few. All of those things have skyrocketed intentionally by design under Biden's Democrat policies. And, you know, I get it. Biden can't even tie his own shoe. So when I say Biden, I mean all the puppet masters behind Biden. I don't mean Biden himself. Again, he can't even walk across stage without getting lost. So next up, let's see some other things that are intentionally being collapsed here in our system. The justice system, the criminal justice system, right? It's been weaponized against conservatives. That's not American. That's anti-American to be that way. If you can't go into the arena of debate and debate your ideas and your philosophies amongst, you know, other people that disagree with you, I guess the Democrats just lock people up. They just lock up people that disagree with their agenda. I mean, take a look at the J6ers as Exhibit A. You know, a lot of those people are down there having their constitutional rights violated on a daily basis because they haven't been, a lot of them, I don't know how many still exist like this, but a lot of them have not actually been criminally charged with anything. They're just in there waiting on charges, waiting for the FBI or the whoever the hell it is, you know, the Justice Department to come up with some sort of a crime that they can charge these people with. So without charges, without a speedy trial. So they violated their due process. They violated their right to a speedy trial. Many of these people are locked up in prison with no way to do anything about it. Pretty much reminds me of that thing Obama had written into the NDAA about basically making somebody disappear without trial or without, you know, a warrant or any of that sort of stuff. And while I'm talking about that, the Republicans, who are supposed to be in control of the House right now, although they're barely in control of the House because many people have retired along the way to get the Democrats closer and closer to being able to take over the House. But anyway, so many of these rhinos have let us down, including the latest one, Mike Johnson, the new Speaker of the House, hadn't even been in there. I mean, he's still wet behind the ears. People barely know who he is, and yet he sided with the Democrats the other day and extended the warrantless searches without a judge, without a warrant, without due process of FISA court. So the FISA court can come after you. They can drum up all kinds of stuff. They're going to be ready to go with all sorts of false accusations against Donald Trump if he is not locked up before 2024, which they're trying very hard to lock him up, which also ties into the justice system. I mean, if you'd have told me 20 years ago that you go into the future of America and you're going to have people on one side trying to lock up the political opponents from people on the other side, I'd have said, no, you're mistaken. You must be talking about Russia or Venezuela or China or someplace like that, or some third world country, right? Not the United States of America. But it's happening here in the United States of America because we allow it to happen. We, the people, allow this to happen. So, Yeah, it's just a bad deal. They have weaponized the justice system. I never thought this would happen. I mean, I could go on and on and on about this one. The parents that were, protesting at different school board meetings and stuff like this, being harassed and in some cases locked up by the FBI and stuff like that. I mean, what the hell is this? What the hell is this? This is not the United States of America. You're supposed to have freedom of speech. You're supposed to be able to go to a school board meeting and say things that might not be popular amongst the group there that's in control. I mean, but it's not that way anymore. You got to watch, mind your P's and Q's in this country, or else the FBI will be knocking on your door, or somebody else. I mean, it's sad, guys. That's why I didn't want to make this video. This stuff is fucking depressing. But it's happening, and the American people are continuing to let it happen. I mean, many of them, I would argue, the number could be as high as 75%, are just so drunk on comfort and don't give a crap. Or, maybe some people do give a crap, but they're so busy trying to work 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet because of this crappy economy and all these other things and all these taxes they have to pay and all this, then, maybe that's what it is, and they don't have time to invest into learning what's going on. I think that's a big part of it. But yeah, it's we the people. We're the only ones that can right this ship, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen. Next up here on the list of things that have been intentionally collapsed since Biden came into office: open borders. He kicked the borders wide open. I remember Biden said, flood the borders with refugees, basically. I don't know if he was actually in office yet or if it was before he was in office, but he said, flood the borders. Go find the quote where Biden says, flood the borders. He said it. Anybody else that said that, the media would have run them through the ringer. Biden gets away. He's allowed to basically almost commit murder because the mainstream media is covering for every single thing he does. And also, Biden's not enforcing the current laws, and he's undone, a lot of the executive orders that Trump had in place that were keeping everything at bay, the Remain in Mexico policy and all these other things that Trump had in place. Biden got rid of those day one, and he's told the Border Patrol and other agencies to stand down. I mean, you might think I'm making this stuff up, but when you look at the fact that Biden had the Border Patrol go over and tear down and cut down fences that the National Guard in Texas put up, now you know that I'm not lying to you. They're undermining Texas's ability to defend their own borders. Unfreaking believable. I mean, I was encouraged when those 25, 26 states sided with Texas a while back, but it's going to take more than that, guys. It's going to take, I don't know, man. It's either going to take a revolution, and maybe not necessarily a violent revolution, but a revolution in thinking, or civil war. Maybe World War III, I could see that as a potential to push us to the edge so far where people come back when we get out of civil war, or I'm sorry, when we get out of World War III, we come back and we're fighting like hell, and maybe that's when the Civil War kicks off. I don't know. But I'm telling you, this Marxist, communist philosophy that the modern Democrats is promoting and pushing here in the United States of America is a suicide pact, okay? Don't sign on to it. Let's take a look at some of these other indicators that the United States is in serious decline right now. We may not survive this. Crime. The crime, it has exploded. I mean, murder, rape, theft, etc. All of those things have shot through the roof. And it's not accidental. It's not coincidental. It's intentional by design. They want you to be scared. They want you to be sitting at your house going, oh my God, when's somebody going to come and do a home invasion on me and try to kill me and my family, rape my wife and my kids or whatever, right? I mean, that's what they want. They want you living in fear. If I learned nothing else from the whole COVID propaganda, COVID 1984 bullshit that we had to go through a few years ago, if I learned nothing else from that, I learned this most important thing. Fear is a very powerful motivator, and the media and the government and every dictator and tyrant throughout history has used fear to control the people. It's exactly what they did during COVID. It's exactly what they do anytime they need to drum up support for whatever their current thing is, right? So yeah, murder, rape, theft, etc. I mean, I heard a deal like a week or two ago, women, outrageous amounts of women in New York City are just being walked up to and punched in the face. I don't know if it's like a knockout game 2.0 against women. I don't know what the point of it is, but I bet a lot of it has to do with this, all this other stuff. The cost of living, the taxes, the economy, the infrastructure failing, the education system failing, everything. It has to do with that. People having to work 2 or 3 jobs. They're pushed to their limits. And I would also argue that it has to do with the open borders and the lawlessness that the current Department of Justice is enforcing. They're basically looking the other way when it's anybody on their side, and they hammer down when it's anybody that's a conservative. So the weaponization against conservatives. I mean, I can't believe, to be honest with you, that more people on the right haven't flipped out already, but it's coming. Last one on this list here is war and rumors of war. I mean, obviously you got Russia, Ukraine, Iran, Israel, China, and Taiwan. All of those things are, you know, hot plate, hot button issues right now. And I guarantee you, it only takes one of them to pop off. And one, you know, we're in Russia, for example, the French are about to send in what they consider NATO troops on the ground. They've admitted they're doing it. So everything is an escalation over there. In Israel right now, you know, Israel attacked some, I don't know, some building that was in like Syria, and there were some Iranians there, so the Iranians were pissed off. Now, the Israelis claim that this Iranian that they were targeting was one of the people that was organizing and you know, putting Hamas up to doing all these different terrorist attacks, right? So that was their justification for hitting this building, and now Iran has to launch back, and they launched like 300 or 400 rockets or whatever, and drones, and I think, at least from what they're reporting on the media, the vast majority of them were unsuccessful, and their Iron Dome was able to stop a lot of them. But eventually, it's not going to be able to stop them. And eventually, the United States is going to have to get more heavily involved if we want to save what we claim is one of our greatest allies in the Middle East, Israel. Of course, I don't know, you know. I look at a lot of things, and I've been really paying attention to this, probably. You know, I think 9/11 was one of those things that really, I was already, I guess you would say woke. I don't really want to use their terminology. I was already red-pilled when Tim McVeigh bombed the Murrah building. And I saw the reasons and the motivations that the government had to set Tim McVeigh up so that they could go after militias, they could go after firearms, they could go after right-wingers, right? Because that's what they were trying to do, was paint him as some sort of like a ultimate right-winger or whatever, terrorist, right? And I guess they did a good job of that. But anyway, that's when I kind of got red-pilled for the first time. And then 9/11 happened, and I saw all these different things that were just really weird. And maybe they were just really weird coincidences, but you know, I'll never forget those dancing Israelis. Do you know what I'm talking about? I don't know how many people remember that, but there was this video that was released like sometime after 9/11 happened. We were trying to figure out what the hell happened, and these 3 or 4 people were up there on top of a roof filming themselves in a selfie position with the Twin Towers behind them while they were still standing as the planes flew into the buildings. And these guys start dancing around, and they knew what was going on, and they were dancing and celebrating in a celebratory fashion. Apparently later on there was some sort of an investigation. I don't think it was a proper investigation, but they found out that these guys were directly connected to Mossad, Israel's version of the CIA. So, can you trust Israel, our supposed best ally in the Middle East? I don't know. I always think back to the dancing Israelis, and I would have to raise my eyebrow before I committed any American troops or funds to either side. And that's one of the dirty little tricks here that the United States does all the time, is we fund both sides of the war. Who the hell does that? Who the hell does that? Only the United States of America does that. So, you know, example, we'll give Israel, you know, $50 billion or whatever, because it's just free money that we can just print and borrow, right? We don't need it. It's just taxpayer money. We can just give that out like it's nothing, right? Like it's monopoly money, right? And then on the other side, we're giving Hamas millions and millions of dollars in foreign aid and all this other. It makes no sense unless you want World War III. And I think they do. I think that might be the only possible way that Biden's going to be able to hold on to power, other than massive, in-your-face cheating. Other than that, the only way Biden can hold power is World War III kicks off, and he uses the War Powers Act of 1973 to declare there will be no election until further notice, because it's just too damn dangerous right now. I think that's a very, very big, likely possibility. I would like to think that, you know, Biden wouldn't do that sort of thing, but when I look at his record and I look at all the other things that he's doing, why wouldn't he do it? I mean, they've bastardized all these other things that I read off here. The Justice Department, right? The justice system. They've bastardized everything. So you think that they wouldn't artificially push us into World War III and into some sort of a scary situation that they could, oh God, they're going to nuke us. Oh God, they nuked XYZ country over here. And that means, oh, well, we can't have elections until we sort this out. Yeah, that's what it's smelling like to me. And the left will say nothing. They will allow it to happen. They'll look the other way and say, yeah, he's right. This is the only way. This is the only way. Meanwhile, they'll be locking Trump up on some false charges of hush money or whatever. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. This only happens in third world countries, which is exactly what Biden's intention is. And the people behind Biden is to turn the United States of America into a third world country. So on the way out here, I've got a few other things I want to read about institutions that have been ruined by Democrat policies over the years. Number one, healthcare. How much trust do you have in healthcare after the whole COVID thing that went down? How much? I'll tell you how much I have. Zero. Zero. I do not trust healthcare anymore. I don't care if it's my family doctor. I talked to him during the whole COVID thing, and he was all for the thing. He was all for it. So I'm like, okay, I am not for you. I will not support you. And, you know, it would have been one thing if the guy would have, like, defended it in a scientific way or whatever, but he didn't bother to do any of that. I was just like, what do you think about this? And he's just like, oh, I think it's a good thing. And I'm like, well, have you looked into all this other stuff over here? And he didn't have anything to say. So I was just like, okay, that tells me everything I need to know. The healthcare system, including my own family doctor, is not to be trusted. Next up, military. What have they done to the military since Biden came into office? And probably a little bit before then too, but mainly since Biden came into office. Well, they're promoting the LGBTQ agenda like you wouldn't believe. They're allowing, you know, I don't know, drag queen story time or story hour or whatever the hell they call it. They're allowing that sort of stuff to happen. They're putting LGBTQ people in the highest positions in the military. I can't remember that one person's name. Oh God, I can see this man's face. Transgender military officer that I guess all the military is supposed to look up to or something. I don't know, man. I mean, but I think that that's probably compelling a lot of young men to look at other things, other options, maybe more manly things that, you know, maybe they might want to get into construction work or something like that instead of, you know, joining the military, which used to be a very normal, manly, male-centric dominated institution. Now it's no longer that way by design, because they're trying to destroy everything about the United States of America, including our military dominance around the world. Another thing they're doing is they're basically doing a clearinghouse method of all of our artillery and all of our highly sophisticated weapons, and we're just sending them all around the world. And when we leave Afghanistan in a botched sort of way, we just leave behind billions and hundreds of billions of dollars worth of very high-tech, sophisticated military equipment that can be used and will be used against us in the future. I mean, if nothing else, I mean, wouldn't it have been nice for someone else like China, right? So I get it. The Afghanis, they may not know how to fly a Black Hawk, but guess what? Guess who does? The Chinese. So the Chinese could come in there and just buy that from them and be like, you know what? We're going to reverse engineer this Black Hawk helicopter. We're going to reverse engineer this M1 Abrams tank or whatever it may be. I think you smell what I'm stepping in, and it doesn't smell good. Military's been ruined. Another thing they did to ruin the military, and this is directly on Biden, vaccine mandate. Oops, I said the word. Hopefully I don't get banned from saying that. But anyway, vaccine mandates, right? A lot of people got kicked out, got booted, and or left the military because they're like, nah, man, I ain't signing up for this. No. But it was important. It was so important for Biden to get everyone mandated that they lost, I mean, thousands and thousands, 20,000, 30,000 out of each different branch related to the jabby jab that nobody wanted to take, but they were forced to take it. And unbelievable. I mean, just unreal. Again, I can't imagine going back 15, 20 years and telling myself that the federal government was going to come around with this experimental mRNA vaccine and make everyone take it, or try to. Me and my wife didn't take it though, and I'm proud. I'm 100% human here. I hope you are too. So what else? What other institutions have been ruined by Democrats? Well, pretty much the police. I mean, nobody that's any good really anymore, or very few people that are any good anymore have remained in the police department because they saw the writing on the wall. They saw the fact that the mayors and the governors around the country, all the way up to the president, were not going to support them. They were going to call them racist, right? For any little thing, even if it wasn't racist. They were going to assume it was racism. I mean, after what happened to George Floyd and Derek Chauvin, more particularly, what happened to Derek Chauvin as a result of doing his normally trained police work, and George Floyd dying of fentanyl and all that, and then the mainstream media coming out immediately and labeling it racism without doing any investigative journalism whatsoever. They labeled it racism before the body even hit the floor or was cold. They labeled it racism. They already had that in their quiver and they were ready to use it. And that's what they're looking at. So, I mean, I guess a lot of these, I mean, I wouldn't be a cop today. No freaking way. No freaking way. Not even in a red state, to be honest with you. I just wouldn't do it. I don't trust them. Now, I might look into the sheriff department. If I wanted to get into law enforcement, I would look into being a sheriff or a deputy sheriff or something like that. But I would not, and even then, it would have to be the right kind of sheriff before I'd go and work for that department. I mean, we're talking hardcore constitutional conservative, I mean, or at very least a hardcore libertarian or something. Somebody that's going to stand up for my rights and defend me when I have to do the job that I was trained to do. So let's go over some other institutions real quick because the video is getting pretty long here, but let's go over a couple of other institutions that have been ruined by Democrat policies over the years. This didn't all just happen under Biden. Some of this stuff's been going on for decades and decades, but here's one. FBI, ruined. CIA, ruined. NSA, ruined. NASA, ruined by Democrat policies. DHS, Department of Homeland Security, ruined by Democrat policies. Department of Justice, ruined by Democrat policies. Everything they touch turns to shit. They have the reverse Midas touch. And Joe Biden is going around touching everything he can. Sniffing all the little girls. No one ever says anything about that in the mainstream media. No one says anything about Ashley Biden's diary or Hunter Biden's laptop or any of the other corruption that's associated with the Biden administration. It's all Orange man bad. So, this is why I've been struggling to make content here lately. I think the United States is on our last leg right now. And that last leg is caught in a bear trap called Marxism, communism, globalism. And unless the American people rise like lions from out of the slumber and realize that we are many, they are few, and actually become we the people of the constitutional United States of America. Unless we do all those things again, this thing is over. The United States of America is over. And there, you know, what takes its place? Well, I already said. A Chinese communist style government is what the New World Order is planning on setting up. So I'm not going to allow that. Not on my land, anything that I control. I'm not going to allow that. Again, I'm not calling for any violence or any action of any kind. I'm just telling you, these are the things that are going to destroy our country. This is the death nail right here that will bring in our end. Unless somehow, some way, miraculously, we can turn the ship around. And I don't see a lot of American people that have the desire to even do that sort of thing, because it's going to take a lot of hard work. And people don't want to do hard work anymore, it seems like. So guys, let me know what you think about all this down in the comments. Share with me some of your other things, some of the other institutions that the Democrats and their Marxist policies have destroyed, and the New World Order, Agenda 21, 2030, is destroying right now. I can't stand it, man. I love this country. I hope the American people wake up before it's too late. I appreciate you guys tuning in. God bless you. I stand for liberty to the bitter end. I hope you do too.